Welcome to Until Saturday live reaction edition for YouTube only. I am joined here by Sam Kahn Jr., our Texpert. There's no Texas flavor in this game, but you're a football expert too. I'm Ari Wasserman. I always forget to introduce myself. And, it's week two consecutive Colorado wins, two consecutive Colorado reactions. Sam, what is your biggest takeaway from Colorado's latest win, beating Nebraska 36-7 and extending their record to 2-0?
They're for real, man. Colorado's legit. For anybody who was wondering if this was going to be a flash in the pan, well, 1 week they caught TCU off guard and all this other stuff. No, they're for real because Nebraska grinded this game down to a slow pace early on, which I think is what they wanted to do. And Nebraska just made too many mistakes early on and allowed Colorado to get a little bit of a lead. And then once they did, Colorado really never turned back. I think there was a point there in the third quarter we thought Nebraska might be able to get back in it after Jeff Sims got that touchdown run, but Colorado was able to answer. Shedeur Sanders was able to make some really good plays, and it's just not a couple of guys. It's not just Shedeur. It's not just Dylan Edwards. It's not just Travis Hunter. You saw Jimmy Horn Jr. have another good game. You saw Xavier Weaver go off today. So they've got lots of weapons. You saw the defense play well today. In a lot of stretches, and so a lot of this team can win multiple ways. It's clear they don't have to necessarily do the track meet like they did against TCU, and this is a team for real that we got to take seriously.
Yeah, I thought last weekend was far more revelatory because we were able to see the proof of concept from this team. We watched them play. We watched them go back and forth with a team that's supposed to be very well coached and maybe one of the tougher outs in the Big 12. And we saw their offensive firepower. We saw Travis Hunter star power. I think we got a pretty good idea of what Colorado was. See them play against a team like Nebraska, who that's another podcast and another hour discussion for shooting yourselves in the foot and how they do constantly are the clinic example of that. But they beat somebody in different ways. They caused 4 turnovers. Nebraska, 2 of 10 on third down. So many mistakes. I think at one point they snapped the ball into a person who's in motion, and Nebraska just, at points felt like they had a real chance to win the game because I think there's a blueprint there for how to give Colorado problems. But what does Colorado do? They did what good teams do, Sam, and that's take all those grab ass mistakes and turn them into a blowout win, and that's what happened.
Yeah, if you're Nebraska, and if you're a Nebraska fan, you felt like early in this game you had a chance, and just basically you squandered it. You've got 2 Jeff Sims fumbles in the first half. You got a really poor interception, and Colorado turned that into 10 points, and it helped them get a lead and helped them get some space. And this is a game that we talked about early in the week is Nebraska is not going to be able to go out there and score 30, 40 points with this team. So they're going to have to keep this a low scoring game. They're going to have to keep this a methodical pace, but you've got to take care of the football. Jeff Sims has got to take care of the football. They've got to make plays. Even I think it was in the second half, they had a 3rd and 16 with about 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. Sims hits Alex Bullock on the money past the first down marker, and the ball's dropped. And then you end up having a punt, and then Colorado ends up scoring after that. Those things cannot happen. And Ari, I know you talked about Matt Rule and the competence that he's shown as a coach and his programs, Temple and Baylor. He was able to both, bring them up from the ashes, so to speak. But year one is always hard, and this is sloppy football that you're seeing from Nebraska right now. And so any chance you had of choking the momentum out of this game and silencing the crowd, you kind of lost it by making these bad mistakes. And Nebraska didn't. Like you said, Colorado did what you're supposed to do, which is when your opponent gives you those opportunities, take advantage of them. And Colorado did it in a big way.
Well, I think there's something really clear here, Sam, and that's that Colorado is just much, much better than people gave them credit for, myself included, just based on the roster flip. Their preseason win total of 3.5 is clearly wrong. I think this is going to be a team that plays in very exciting games down the stretch. I thought that there was a chance that there could be a week 1, Super Bowl celebration, if you will, like hangover coming into this game, and then playing a team that, plays pretty good defense and plays really tough on the lines and can run the football. I thought was a tough matchup for them. And early on in the first half, it kind of felt like that was going to be the case. But Nebraska just isn't a good football team. They make too many mistakes. They aren't competent, which is the exact opposite of what I thought it would happen. And I think really we learned a lot more about Nebraska in this game than we did about Colorado. We learned that the defrosting period, if you will, for the Cornhuskers is going to be a process. It's going to take some time because I thought that they would be able to eliminate all these mistakes and, all these things. And what it turns out to be is just a really bad football team. And Colorado does what you do against really bad football teams. And the thing that I will, say here, I know Travis Hunter made a few plays. He had 3 receptions for 73 yards. But there was this notion, I think, last week, too, that Colorado was going to need Travis Hunter to be an absolute star in every single game that he plays. And he didn't have to be a star. Did he make really any dynamic play that just sticks out to you or one that you'll remember 3 weeks from now? Probably not. Consistency and being on the field as much as he was obviously helps, and he's a tremendous player. I'm not trying to be negative about him. What I'm trying to do is compliment Colorado and say, hey, they didn't need their best player to have a Superman-like performance in order to win a game, and not only just win a game, but win it by 22. And I think I do have to, take my hat off to Shedeur Sanders. No interceptions, 31 for 42, 393 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just another productive day for a quarterback who is just becoming more and more fun to watch. So, I think that the biggest thing with Colorado, Sam, was that this was going to be a spectacle. Watching this week in and week out was going to be entertaining because Deion is who he is, and all the things that they did in the offseason made it just, the hype machine just went crazy. But what I think we have here now is a above average football team that's going to be playing in exciting games and going to be competent in the way that I thought Nebraska would be, and especially TCU would be year in and year out. I don't think this means that, Colorado's going to go win the Pac-12 or that they're going to win a national title this year. But what it does mean is that they're just a good football team with some really really nice top end pieces that are going to make you have to watch them every week. And I think that's probably the best case scenario for them this year.
Yeah, no, they're a factor. They're going to be a factor in the Pac-12 for real. And because I think you're going to see teams are going to have trouble covering them. Because, again, like you mentioned, Travis Hunter, 3 catches, 73 yards, but Xavier Weaver 10 catches, 170 yards and a touchdown today. Made some great plays. Jimmy Horn, the USF, both of those guys, USF transfers, 8 catch for 64 yards. These are really good players. So your teams are going to have a problem trying to track all those receivers. And then, oh, by the way, if you happen to cover all those guys, Dylan Edwards is going to squeak out into the flats and be open for a catch and run to get some yards that way. So this is a team with a ton of talent. And we say all that. We haven't even seen Alton McCaskill yet, who was one of their better transfers they got from Houston. Deion said earlier this week that McCaskill really, really wanted to play and wanted to practice, took his yellow jersey off in the middle of the week because he wanted to feel some hits. And so they're being careful with him. But once he gets in the mix, he's a dynamic guy who's going to add another element to this offense. You've got a collection of skill position talent that's really going to be hard for opposing defenses to deal with, whether you're in the Pac-12 or anybody else.
Yeah, and what I think is exciting more so than anything, and I'm kind of a big picture guy here, Sam. You know how I like to talk about 500-foot views up from programs and what the future holds and stuff. It's like I wrote a column this week about Colorado's proof of concept and how they're actually showing that they can be a well-coached, fun football team to watch. And if you thought that Deion Sanders was going to be a problem beforehand on the recruiting trail, before he had proven anything at the Power 5 level, I mean, think about this team, the way it's coached and the way that it plays with really good players on the lines, really good players at linebacker. Like if he starts accumulating talent at an above average rate, going to the Big 12, I really think, talk about the Big 12 and all the things that are the race for all these teams to be the next Texas or the next Oklahoma. If Colorado has Deion Sanders in the fold for 5-6 years, I think that they would probably be one of the top 3 favorites to run the Big 12 in 3 or 4 years from now. And I know that we're just reacting to this game, but you know how I do. I get to, I fly off the handle a little bit. If they start getting real dudes in there, not that Travis Hunter isn't and Shedeur isn't, but they get them 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 at a time rather than 1 or 2 at a time, Colorado is going to be a really big problem. And we had a few coworkers over in Boulder, and I was pretty jealous with the mountains and stuff. It looked really nice.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot to sell if you're Deion, buddy. You want to go play in 70-degree weather in the mountains and a cool breeze and a beautiful climate and beautiful scenery, man. Boulder's beautiful, man. So you've got a lot to sell. And like you said, if you've got proof of concept and you've got a coach with some juice, man, like Deion, he's magnetic, and the way his personality just kind of beams through that matters a lot. That matters in recruiting. The way he makes you feel, the way he's going to make these recruits feel, and they've already done a really good job on the recruiting trail and in the transfer portal. And now that if they're continuing to stack wins on top of it, you feel like there's a lot of high potential for this program long term.
Yeah, so I'm excited to recap the game on Saturday night show, which is live. I am actually in Birmingham right now. I will be driving to Tuscaloosa right when we hang up here to cover the Texas Alabama game, which, I've had circled on my calendar for, 6 months now. I'm super excited to go watch and see how Texas hangs in there with Alabama on the road. I think there's another discussion that we have to have about Nebraska and how long this build's going to take, because I got to tell you, Sam, somebody made comment to me that they think that Nebraska is one of the most unlucky teams they've ever seen. And it's like, I don't know if it's bad luck or it's just like a culture that has to be eradicated, in a position where you need to get more players on your roster to get rid of the frostness of it. But like, it is just like painful to watch. You have all these different penalties, you have weird fumbles, you have bad calls. It's just like the whole game was just a shit show. So 4 turnovers, 2 of 10 on third down, like I said, sacks. They've got a major quarterback issue. I thought there was a chance that he could really settle in and be something really special, Sims that is, and they had Purdy's little brother back into the game, and that is all a discussion that we're going to have. But Colorado 2-0, probably going to have another instant reaction show next week, because as long as they're winning, they're worth talking about. And it's been a pleasure, Sam. So thanks for joining me. This was the Until Saturday instant reaction. Be sure to check in with us after the Alabama game tonight. Dave Ubbin and I will be going live. And then, of course, on Sunday, we will have our Sunday sound off show, all that stuff this weekend. Stay tuned, and thanks so much for tuning in.